Hello again. Last time we talked about Isaac and Rebekah, and today we're going to talk about their children, Jacob and Esau. Well, after some time, Isaac and Rebekah, they had, it was a while actually. Rebekah didn't have any kids, and it was a very big blessing to have children for the men and the women there. So Isaac, he prayed to God. And he says, God, please bless my wife. Bless my wife with children. And sure enough, after a time, maybe a year later, Rebekah had twins. And the whole time that she was pregnant, these twins, as they got bigger, they were like wrestling inside of her tummy, kicking and pushing and fighting inside the stomach already. And God had told her that there are two nations wrestling inside of her, and that there is a promise. The older would serve the younger. So the one that would be born first would technically be older than the one that was born second, but after they grew up, the older one would serve the younger one. Well, sure enough, the twins were born, and one of them had hair all over his head when he was born, and it was a reddish color, and then the other one was born, and he didn't have as much hair, and he was a little bit more pale and fair-skinned, and they named one Esau and the other Jacob. Oh, the twins grew, and they were, Isaac and Rebekah were so excited, and they would, work with them as they grew, and as Esau grew older, he loved the outdoors. He loved running around and chasing animals, and he loved learning to hunt. And as he got older and older, he would go out on these hunts and bring back food animals that he would go out for and bring them back and cook them. Whereas Jacob, as he grew up, he loved staying closer to home and hanging out with mom and learning to cook at home and tending some of the sheep and goats and things that they kept at their home. Both boys knew about their culture and their custom, and both boys knew that eventually their father Isaac, when he got older and died much later in years, they knew that he would offer a blessing on the older child. And both boys knew about this thing called the birthright. And that birthright would belong to the firstborn, the one in the family who was born first. And that birthright meant lots of blessings. And usually you would inherit most, if not all, of the family's wealth. Now, in those days, maybe they had silver for money and things, or gold, but most of their wealth was built up with the goats and the sheep and the tents that they had and all of their things that they had. Well, Jacob had also heard from his mother this promise that God had given her about how the older would serve the younger. And he was technically the younger, and so he kept thinking about that. And he kept thinking and thinking. He thought too much about it. He should have just relaxed and let God take care of things. Sometimes we try and force things and make things happen, and do things ourselves instead of relaxing and just letting God lead our life and take care of us. Well, one day, Esau came back from hunting. He'd probably been gone a couple of days, and he hadn't caught anything at all. Usually he caught something, maybe even a rabbit or something, but he hadn't caught anything at all. And he came back and he was so hungry. Have you ever been so hungry that you just can't even think? You can't go on any farther, and you're so weary you just want to sit down and wait for food. I've never been there. I have been so blessed. I've always had food to eat. I've never been starving hungry. But here's Esau. He comes back from the hunt, and he's starving hungry. And he comes up, he sees his brother Jacob. Now guess what his brother Jacob is doing? his brother Jacob, he's got a fire going, and they've got whatever they use to hang a pot over the fire, and there's this pot, and he's making some stew. I don't know what's in the stew. Probably lentils. We know about that. Maybe he had some vegetables in there, some carrots. He probably put in maybe some leeks or some small onions or something to flavor it, and some spices and other kinds of stuff. And it was boiling. It just smelled so good. And when you're extra hungry and something smells so good, you'll do anything just to get a couple of bites. So here comes Esau. And he comes up to Jacob and he says, "Oh, finally, I'm back. Jacob, I am so famished. Please, just give me a little bit of your stew, and then I'll go the rest of the way home. I'll be fine." And Jacob's like, now's my chance. This is my chance. He thought, okay, I'll tell you what, brother. You can have the whole thing if you sell me your birthright. And Esau's like, what? Get out of here. You're crazy. Just give me some stew. I'm the firstborn. The birthright belongs to me. And you ain't getting it. And Jacob's like, okay, fine. Then this is my stew. You can make your way the rest of the way home. And Esau's like, come on, just give me a bite. Give me just one spoonful, please. It smells so good. And Esau kept pushing it, or Jacob kept pushing him. It's like, sell me your birthright. Finally, Esau's like, okay, fine, whatever. I don't care about the stupid birthright anyways. Fine, just give me a bite, please. And Jacob's like, okay, promise. Let's shake on it. We'll do a spit shake. And they shook on it. And then the birthright was sold to Jacob. And Jacob's like, here you go. It's all yours. Esau was like, oh, good. I am so hungry. And he ate down the stew. It was so good. And he relaxed. Well, some years later, I don't know how many years later, but some years later, their father Isaac was getting old. Now, their father Isaac, he had problems with eyesight. You see, like me, I wear contacts. How many of you have to wear glasses or contact lenses? I do. I have to wear contact lenses, and without them, everything is super blurry for me. Well, Isaac was like that, and especially as he got older and older, his eyesight was growing dimmer and dimmer, and it's very possible that he grew cataracts. You can, if you don't know what those are, ask your mom or dad about them, but they cloud up the eyes, and they make it so that you can't see very well, and eventually Isaac just kind of went blind. But his hearing was still good, and his taste was still good, and as he was getting older, he called in, he says, Esau, come into my tent. They lived in tents, they didn't have a house. Come into my tent. And Esau came in from where he was outside, and he knelt down before his father, and he says, yes, Father, what is it? And Isaac says, Esau, listen to me. I'm getting old, and it is time for me to pass on the family blessing to you. But to do so, we must do it properly. So I want you to go out and hunt. And I want you to bring back some food, and prepare it like you know how I like it. Some savory wild meat. Bring it back, cook it, prepare it, and then I will bless you before I die. Esau was a little bit excited. Maybe in the back of his mind he remembered that time when he had sold his birthright to his brother. You don't know. But he went out, he got his bow and he got his arrows, and maybe he had a horse or a donkey or camels, I don't know, but he went out and he went off. Now, in the next tent over, Rebecca is there, and she's listening to this. You see, the tents, maybe they protect the sound a little bit, but when I go camping, I can hear things outside of my tent really well. And Rebecca's over there, and she hears this, and she's like, it's time. It's time. No, this can't happen. I know. She calls in her son, Jacob. She goes, Jacob, come, quick. come here, come here. And she whispers low so that Isaac won't hear. She says, listen, I want you to go out and I want you to get one of the goats and I want you to bring it in. Okay? And then we're going to prepare the goat and we're going to make some meat like your father likes. And then you're going to take this in and you're going to receive the blessing. And Jacob starts worrying. He's like, wait a minute. I'm not Esau. My father will recognize me. I'm not hairy like my brother Esau is. And surely he'll recognize my voice. And what if he tries to feel me? This won't work. His mother's like, no. God promised that he would follow after you. God promised this. This is how it's going to happen. This is how it's going to work. And Esau's like, I don't know. Okay. So he obeyed his mother. He went out and he brought in one of the goats. Well, they quickly prepared the goat for food. And then she took some of the goat skin and she cut it up and she wrapped it around Jacob's arms so that it would feel hairy. And she did it on both arms, and then she stuffed some inside of his shirt around his neck, and then she had the food cooked and prepared. And she's, oh, go quickly, go, take it. Jacob's like, okay. And so he took it in and he says, Father. Well, Isaac is inside and he's sitting, and maybe he was dozing off a little bit while he waited for Esau. And he's like, yes, who is there? Jacob Silver is like, Father, it's me, your son Esau. Esau? Is that you, my son? Yes, Father, it is I. I have returned with the food that you asked. Esau, come in. Let me, come closer. Let me feel you. Something doesn't seem right. Oh, I often wonder if Isaac really knew it was Jacob. I don't know. The Bible says Esau was thinking, it's the voice of Jacob, but it's the skin of Esau. He did bring him close, and he felt his arms. He's like, that's kind of weird. He's like, but he smelled the meat. Okay, kneel down, my son. Jacob kneeled down before his father, and his father ate some of the meat that had been prepared. And it did taste good. And then he laid his hand on his son Jacob, and he blessed him. He passed on the family blessing that meant not just their family wealth, but blessings from God to bless his family and his descendants and his children. And then once he was done, Jacob got up and he left. Well, a short time later, here comes Esau. And Esau comes in and he's like, Father, I've returned. And then Esau realizes, oh, that was Jacob. And he says, Esau, where have you been? And he says, Father, I went out hunting like you said. And he says, Esau, your brother Jacob came in already and received the blessing. Oh, Esau started getting angry, something deep within him. He started boiling over inside. He's like, but Father, no, you said you would bless me. Father, don't you have a blessing for me? And he says, come in, my son. And he knelt before his father Jacob, and Isaac. And Isaac put his hand on his son Esau, and he gave a blessing, but not the family blessing, not the God blessing. It was a different kind of blessing. Yes, he would be successful and do well, but you remember the promise from God. The older would serve the younger. And that came out in Isaac's blessing as well. Well, Esau left, and he was just so angry. Isaac called for his wife. He's like, listen, he didn't even want to go into what they had done. He says, listen, Esau is so angry. I fear for what he might do to our son Jacob. Send my son Jacob away, but do not send him to the people here of Canaan, just like Abraham had done for Isaac. I want you to send him back to our family. to your brother and his family. Send them back there. And he must leave tonight. Oh, it was a sad day. Jacob got ready in a hurry. And when he left, he never saw his mother again. She died before he returned many, many years later. You know, God did make a promise, and God will keep his promises. But when we get in the way and try and force God's hand, things get messy. It is so much better when we just trust in God and let him lead our lives and not worry about how things will come out and trying to do what God has in mind for us on our own. Instead, just relax. Pray to him every day and let him lead your life. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.